Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Hoyt. I'm president of Zeolite Labs, and today I want to talk a little bit about zeolite and how it can be used in combination with a mineral balancing protocol to enhance the benefits and to reduce some of the detox reactions associated with mineral balancing. Zeolite is a volcanic mineral. It's got a negative ionic charge and it's attracted to positively charged toxic elements. So it's a binder. What makes it unique is that really it's considered a smart or selective binder because opposed to traditional binders like activated charcoal that just go in and indiscriminately bind to everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, Zeocharge is only binding to those heavier toxic elements like heavy metals, environmental toxins, mycotoxins, radioactive materials, metabolic waste products, etc., while leaving alone the essential minerals and nutrients. So this is what really sets it apart and why it's considered a smart binder. This makes it great to be used in combination with mineral balancing because it's not going to be disrupting the mineral status like some of the other traditional binders out there. I think what Zeocharge and mineral balancing products have in common is that they're both working with the body's natural detox processes to get the job done. So a lot of detox protocols are what I really think is fighting against the body's natural process. So when you have things like synthetic chelators that are going in and trying to forcefully remove heavy metals from organs and tissue, that's going to be more fighting against the body's natural process opposed to getting the body to naturally release those things on its own. So with mineral balancing, it's getting the body to naturally release those things, and with Zeocharge as well, it's just binding and getting the body to naturally release opposed to going into organs and tissues. So a lot of people think that zeolite is going into the brain, into organs, into tissue, and forcefully trying to rip these metals out, but that's really not what's happening, at least not with Zeocharge. It's just a binder. It's effectively binding to those heavy metals and toxins and various things that the body is currently processing. And then if the body chooses to, because detox is up to the body will then release heavy metals and toxins from tissues, from organs, because now there's room to receive them in the body's processing center. So why would you want to incorporate zeolite into a mineral balancing protocol? And the answer is basically stress mitigation, stress reduction, right? So when you're utilizing mineral balancing to detox, there's going to be some level of stress added to the body, right? So heavy metals and toxins are going to be mobilized from tissue, and they're going to end up in the body's processing center where the body has to deal with these things to remove them. And that is going to be adding stress to the body. And for some individuals, that's going to result in detox reactions, indicating that it's more stress than the body currently wants to deal with. Now, the benefits are still going to be there because there's a net positive. You're removing these toxic elements from the body. But if you can reduce that stress during this process, that's going to be better because there's going to be less stress in the body, there's going to be less detox reactions, and that's also going to result in higher compliance for your clients, because people don't really want to be experiencing these detox reactions for an extended period of time. So mineral balancing supplements are being used as the primary detox agent in this situation. They're going in, they're mobilizing these heavy metals and various things from tissue, and they're coming into the body's processing center. But then instead of the body having to deal with all of these things on its own, the zeolite is going in and binding to these things and helping mitigate that reaction. The other nice thing about zeolite, and I think one of the biggest benefits of Zeocharge, is its ability to bind to metabolic waste products. So during the detox process, there's generally going to be an increase in metabolic waste products because of the detox stress that is occurring. Things like excess histamine could be produced. And for people that have mast cell activation syndrome or already have high levels of histamine, this could be very problematic and cause a lot of symptoms. So zeolite's been shown to bind to histamine. Zeolite has been shown to bind to mycotoxins as well. It's been shown to bind to ammonia, urea, aldehydes, and other things. So I think a lot of detox protocols kind of overlook the metabolic waste products and some of these biotoxins and other sources of toxicity that aren't the toxins and the heavy metals. But by binding to those things as well, it's just reducing that detox stress. It's enhancing the body's natural ability to handle the other toxins that are coming in. When I'm talking about zeolite here, I'm referring to our product Zeocharge, which is a high quality natural cleanup tilolite zeolite. But there are a number of products on the market, and zeolite's basically turned into this class of supplement, right? And it's kind of the Wild West. There's all sorts of different variations of these zeolite supplements. You've got liquids, you've got nanos, you've got synthetics, you've got naturals. So I'm referring to and I'm recommending high quality powdered clinoptilolite zeolite. So we don't recommend the nanos because there's some safety concerns, lack of research, and basically if they're doing what companies are claiming they're doing, they're basically going in, probably bypassing digestion, absorbing through the mouth, and acting more as a chelator, which is kind of the opposite of what we're going for here as a traditional binder. So potentially the nanos could potentially have some benefit, but they're not going to act as a traditional zeolite and as a binder. They're going to be more acting as a chelator. Then you have the liquids, which are generally just going to be the powdered zeolite mixed with water and marketed as a liquid zeolite. Most of these are marketed as nano. Most of them are not nano. Most of them are literally just powders mixed with water, and they're being false marketed. That's very common. The ones that are nano are a little bit different. It is a different process, but once again, there are concerns there as well, and it's less of a binder and more of a chelator. There are also synthetic zeolites. Some of them are being sold as supplements, and those ones do have some safety concerns as well. One of the main concerns with zeolites is the safety profile, because people often ask, is it going to cause aluminum toxicity? Because zeolites by definition are aluminum silicates, meaning they're in their cage structure, they're made of aluminum and silica. So clinoptilolite, which is the type of zeolite we use in Zeocharge and the type of zeolite used in most supplements, that was chosen because it is stable. It's not going to be broken down by stomach acid. It's not breaking apart in the body. It's a stable structure. It's this cage-like structure, simply passes through the body, grabs things, and it leaves. There are other forms of zeolite naturally occurring that potentially will break down and could be problematic. So that's why they're not generally sold as supplements, or you wouldn't want to consume them. And then there's synthetic zeolites as well, which could potentially cause some issues and could potentially cause aluminum accumulation and other issues there. Prior to launching the company and the product Zeocharge, we did a case studies program just to make sure it was safe and it was able to do what we were going to claim that it was going to do. And we were able to clearly show that it does not cause aluminum toxicity, and in fact, it actually has a pretty powerful aluminum reducing effect. We were also able to show that the Zeocharge does not negatively impact vitamin and nutrient levels, and generally it actually results in an increase in vitamin and nutrient levels. When looking for a zeolite supplement, there's a number of things you want to consider. One, you're going to want to choose a powder, a natural, high-quality zeolite powder, and you're going to want to look at a few things. One is the silica to aluminum ratio. So that's really determining the stability of the zeolite structure, and that's why clinoptilolite was chosen, because clinoptilolite has a higher silica to aluminum ratio than the other naturally occurring zeolites. Zeocharge is nearly 75% silica, so it's got the highest silica to aluminum ratio that we've seen in any product or any zeolite that we've ever tested. So it's going to be even more stable than some of the other products. Now, not to say the other natural clinoptilolite products are not stable, but Zeocharge, just based on its structure, is going to be even more stable. The other thing is that you want a product that's going to be cleaned. So we have a cleaning process to clean the zeolite, because a lot of zeolite is coming from commercial mines because zeolite's mined for commercial purposes. So a lot of these companies are just mining cheap zeolite and packaging it, and there's really not a lot done for it. It's really not even made for human consumptions. So ours is coming from a private mine, and it's being cleaned and processed and finally micronized. And the micronization process is another big one, because most zeolite powders are not micronized properly, or they're just not micronized enough. So they're grainy, they're gritty, they're kind of sandy. Zeocharge is going to be fine. So it's the finest powder on the market. And you can just, you could just buy a jar of Zeocharge, buy a few jars of like Amazon brand zeolites, and you'll be able to tell the difference in quality right away based on the taste and the texture. But yeah, the three things that set Zeocharge apart are going to be its purity, its particle size arrangement, and proof that it works, right? So those are the kind of the three things that set us apart. One of the interesting things about zeolite is kind of the dosing paradox. So taking higher doses of Zeocharge is actually less likely to result in a detox reaction than taking low doses or taking micro doses. So what a lot of people do is they'll take a scoop of Zeocharge, mix it with a glass of water, take a sip, because they want to start super low, make sure it doesn't give them a reaction. But that's the worst thing you can do, because that's much more likely to result in a headache or some sort of other detox reaction. Basically what's happening is when you take a very small dose, it's going in and stirring things up. It's potentially disrupting biofilms or doing something to expose the body to more toxicity, expose the body's processing center to more toxicity. And then the body has to clean up that mess because there's not enough binding capacity from the zeolite. Now, if you took a higher dose, it still goes in, kind of makes a mess, but there's enough available zeolite left, extra binding capacity, to clean up the mess it makes. So a microdose basically goes in, makes a mess. Your body has to deal with that mess on its own. A higher dose goes in, makes a mess, cleans up its own mess, and the net reduction, the net effect is a reduction in stress on the body. So the goal when taking zeolite is to act as a binder to reduce the total stress load on the body. So when taking a liquid or a nano, which are micro doses, or a very, very tiny dose of a powdered zeolite, generally you're not going to be getting that net reduction stress effect. It could be actually adding stress to the body, which is defeating the entire purpose. One more note on the liquids and the nanos, just to explain the dose. So most liquids have about 300 micrograms, which is less than 1 milligram per serving. And we recommend up to 30 grams of Zeocharge at a time for the higher ending dose. That's 100,000 times the dose. So we just don't think it's generally going to be feasible to get an adequate amount of zeolite from these liquid products and the nanos because it's such an incredibly low dose. So, and considering that the higher doses are gentler, then it makes it very difficult to get good results with the liquids and nanos. And one of the reasons why a lot of people think that the liquids and nanos are working so well is because they're getting such terrible detox reactions, and they say this is great, it means the protocol's working, but really in this situation, it's an indication that it's an inefficient detox. Because you can do the same thing with Zeocharge, you can take one sip and get a terrible reaction, but if the next day you take the entire glass and you get no reaction, it doesn't mean the one sip worked better, it just means it was an inefficient detox and it made your body work harder to detox those things on its own, opposed to having the zeolite to bind and reduce the stress on the body. So kind of interesting. I do have quite a bit of information on the dosing paradox on the website. There's a quite lengthy document going over the logic behind that. Now the dosing is a little bit less important when zeolite's being combined with the mineral balancing protocol because things are already stirred up, right? So zeolite is not being used as the primary detox agent. When zeolite is being used as the primary detox agent, then I recommend taking the entire dose at once. So between 2 and 6 scoops all at once. So someone with like mast cell activation syndrome or Lyme disease or chronic mold toxicity, generally I have them start on a higher dose of about 6 scoops, take it all at once, 1 time per day, and that works very well. But if someone is doing the mineral balancing protocol, they're detoxing with mineral balancing and they're using the zeolite as just a binder to mitigate that stress. So in that situation, you're going to want to take 1 to 2 scoops of Zeocharge after each dose, about an hour after each dose of the mineral balancing supplements, right? So basically you're going in, you're mobilizing toxicity through the mineral balancing supplements, and then about an hour later, you take the binder, the Zeocharge, to help mop up some of that stuff, so to prevent some of the immune reaction and just to help prevent some of the detox stress from occurring. And then you do that each time you take the mineral balancing supplements. So the dose is a little bit less important when it comes to combining Zeocharge with mineral balancing because you're already stressing out the system, and even taking a small amount after is probably going to be beneficial because it's going to bind to something. But a lot of people are going to need a little bit higher dose to bind to more. So it really depends on the body's natural capacity to clear these toxic elements on its own. So someone that's not prone to detox reactions, that's really not that sensitive, might not need as much, but someone that is barely able to complete the program or at risk of dropping off of the mineral balancing program because of the terrible detox reactions, they might want to do more. So maybe start with 2 scoops an hour after the mineral balancing supplements and do that 3 times per day. One of the nice things about Zeocharge is that unlike other binders, it can be taken with food because it's a selective binder. It's not going to be binding to those nutrients like a lot of the binders. So in all of the animal research, the zeolite is actually mixed in with the animal feed, and that's how they get it to the animals. And even in those situations, it increases the serum levels of vitamins and minerals and nutrients. So it's not negatively impacting the nutrient status, it's actually improving the nutrient status, so it can be, even when it's taken with food. Now, a lot of practitioners will choose to take it away from food still. That's fine. It's an option where if someone is having a difficult time getting it into their schedule, it can be taken right around a meal as well. Just the thing to consider is whenever you're taking the Zeocharge, it's going to be binding to whatever your body's currently processing at that time. So if you take it after a meal, it's going to be binding to some of the waste products produced from the stress of digestion, like ammonia. If it's taken on an empty stomach, it's going to be binding to whatever the body's currently processing at that time. That's why taking it about an hour after the mineral balancing supplements generally works great, because then you're having these metals and toxicants dumped into the processing center and potentially some detox stress occurring with increased histamine or whatever else. And then the zeolite can go in and help bind to some of those things and mitigate that stress of the detox. So Zeocharge is working with the body's natural detox processes. Just like the mineral balancing, Zeocharge is not going into the brain, it's not going into organs and ripping things out. It's simply binding to what the body has already released, or what is currently floating around. It's binding to those things and helping mitigate the stress on the body. So it's not going to interfere with the mineral balancing protocol like some other binders and like synthetic chelators potentially would be doing. So in summary, zeolite can be used in combination with the mineral balancing protocol, with the main goal of mitigating some of the stress that is occurring from the mineral balancing supplements. And this is going to improve client compliance. It's going to just help reduce the stress load on the body, mitigate some of those detox reactions, which is going to be ideal during the detox process. Zeocharge is going to be a very effective binder. It's a smart binder. It's not depleting essential vitamins and minerals. It's not causing any sort of aluminum toxicity. And if you know any HTMA mineral balancing practitioners that are utilizing Zeocharge, just ask them and they're going to be able to tell you that there's no concerns with aluminum toxicity with Zeocharge. Zeocharge has advantages over traditional binders because it's not depleting the essential nutrients. And also, one of the other big things is that most binders are constipating, and Zeocharge for most people is not constipating. And in fact, most people actually experience more of a laxative effect with Zeocharge. Now, it does depend on the person. Some people it's constipating, but generally it's going to be more of a laxative effect than a constipation. So a lot of people that were not able to tolerate the charcoals and the clays and the other binders have been able to tolerate Zeocharge without any issues. Zeocharge has advantages over synthetic chelators. One, because it's natural and not causing a lot of the issues synthetics cause, and it's not fighting against the body's natural detox processes by going in and trying to rip out heavy metals from tissue and organs. It's just binding to what the body has already released and what's floating around, and then the body's able to do what it wants with that extra energy. So I think zeolite is a great tool to be used with the mineral balancing protocol, because both Zeocharge and the mineral balancing supplements are working with the body's natural processes to encourage the body to naturally release these things from organs and tissue, because ultimately detox is up to the body, and we just want to get to the body to the point where it's going to feel comfortable to naturally release these things on its own. And during that process, we want to make it as comfortable as possible and the least stressful experience as possible. And that's where Zeocharge comes in, because it can come in and just bind to some of those toxic elements that are adding stress to the body and just reduce those detox reactions and reduce the total stress load on the body. Starting recommendation of 1 to 2 scoops of Zeocharge about an hour after each dose of the mineral balancing supplements is going to be a great starting recommendation, and then you can adjust the dose there as needed. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to check out the website, zeolitelabs.com. It does have quite a bit of information and resources on there. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to jeff@zeolitelabs.com, jeff@zeolitelabs.com, and I'm happy to answer those questions for you. Keep up the great work, everyone.